Here's your report.
Oh, thanks, Jane. I wish I could hire someone just like you.
Try LinkedIn Hiring Pro. It's more than a job board. It's like the recruiter you always wished you had. Hiring Pro uses real-time insights to match your role to LinkedIn's unique network of professionals and delivers a short list of best fit candidates. You'll spend less time sorting applicants and more time talking to the right people.
Let's do it. You're irreplaceable, Jane, but another you would be great.
Hire right the first time. Post your job for free on LinkedIn today at linkedin.com/quality.
Come meet me at the Musial with Alan and Daniel. We'll talk about the Cardinals all night long. Everyone come gather round, listen to your favorite sound. We'll talk about the Cardinals all night long. We'll talk the games and all the rest, about the team that we love best. We'll talk about the Cardinals all night long. We're gonna talk about the Cardinals all night long.
Good morning. Welcome into another edition of Meet Me at Musial. I'm your host, Daniel Shoptaw at C70. With me, as always, Alan Medlock, A Medlock 1. They were coming to you early Friday morning. The Cardinals have had a busy week. We'll open a series with the Rockies this evening, I guess. But Alan, obviously, since the last time we talked, the biggest thing is there are a few people that are no longer Cardinals, as this team has made, got through the trade deadline, and it seems like they did what they wanted to do.
Sure. Sounds like they had a good morning, by the way. Seems like they had a plan in place. Were able to stick to it, and from all reports, did pretty well on the return. Extremely active deadline. That was really, really fun. I think things get watered down a little bit with the added playoff spots sometimes, but this is kind of what we wanted. I don't know if there's any contractual 2027 play in this, but there was a lot of movement. I mean, I think baseball deserves it, and baseball needed it, where things were switching hands. On a Cardinal note, I felt like they did pretty well. Some of the guys that May turned out to be a really good signing. You signed a trade, did just enough to up his value, and you bring back some good pieces. I know that you had the extra year in Nootbaar, but that added into his trade value, and you were able to move that. And then Romero, you knew that he would be sought after. So honestly, me personally, you walk away considering where they are standing wise, where they are development wise, and how active the deadline was for them, and they were able to do some initiatives and make some promotions right after and things like that. It's a pretty good week to be a Cardinal. Go and win a series in New York where you come back and honestly just get out pitched in game 2, and those things happen. But you come back, you got Colorado tonight with a little bit of momentum, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll get into it maybe here in a little bit, but the Cardinals still have those playoff hopes. They're not huge, and I don't think that's necessarily a huge focus of the team, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to try for it as well. Yeah, I mean, again, Cardinals didn't make a move until like 3 hours before the deadline, and it was getting to be the point of you got a little bit concerned, I think, for a while. You knew that Dustin May had to move. I mean, but it just felt like, when is this going to happen? So when the deal for May and Romero to Milwaukee was announced, that kind of opened a little bit of, at least gave you some breathing, because if you did nothing else, that was a good trade. And getting back, 2 top prospects, a guy that's, at Double-A and, having a great season and in Ragsdale, and then Frias, who's probably one of the best was one of the best prospects that got dealt in all of baseball through the whole deadline. To bring those 2 guys in for Dustin May, who has been good. He's also been a little bit inconsistent, but is also a 2-month rental, and JoJo Romero the same way, and even less for JoJo because he may not be back till close to the end of the month. I tell you, that was a whole lot more than I expected to get back for either one of those guys.
Sure. I mean, it sounded like they really held out and got the best available package that they could. Yeah, it's funny when you talk about as it gets closer to that deadline and you start seeing time kind of click off the clock a little bit. You get a little bit of trauma of what we've gone through in the past on some trade deadlines.
Mm-hmm.
And to where it's like we just didn't find the right moves, and those situations that we would always hear, in the press availability right afterwards. Now we'll say this: it's kind of tough for me to kind of take any shots at Mo on this one because I felt like he did a heck of a job with the Anaheim stuff too. You know what I mean? With the job that he's going to go out there with an owner that may be even less forgiving than the DeWitts, but yes, the returns seemed to be great. I mean, I try to dig into them as best I can. Not very good at that, at this point. But between the trade returns and the waiver wire pickup yesterday, I mean, it seems a little intriguing and exciting. This is kind of cool to see what's transpiring, and it's one of those to where I always try to ask myself what I would love to find out what the trademark or the benchmarks are right now of where you feel like you had a successful season. What improvement goals and targets did you hit um, to signify success on that and where they are? And I wonder how much that would change if you did have a team that, like you and I said, it's not necessarily what the playoff chase for us because, that would be awesome if they got in. But no, you want to play above 500. You want to win these series, and you want to see that after the deadline where you lost a veteran that means a lot to your team in Nootbaar and Dustin May, who came in with I think the players realized what May was in for. They Wynn had mentioned it, Burleson had mentioned it, and all those things. But without those guys in the clubhouse now, and then you lose a couple of potential leaders of guys that have walked the walk. If you come out and you compete, if that's going to be one of the benchmarks of, hey, we may be closer than we thought we were.
Yeah, I think that's very possible. I think that while the Cardinals obviously sold at the deadline, and again, if you want to know about the prospects that came back in detail, there's 800 other better places to be for that. But I know Kyle and Brian Walton put out a podcast on Monday that detailed all the trade stuff, and they're always talking good stuff. There's dealing the cards, other places you'll find them, and if you haven't by now, which I mean, it's been close to a week now, so probably you have. But I think part of what the Cardinals thought at the deadline was they wanted to sell. They had to sell their big pieces, but they also did things that kept them in contention, like Ryan Stanek, which granted has caused some angst this week as well. Probably could have been dealt, right? I mean, you could have dealt him for some AA prospect or single A prospect, some guy you didn't necessarily expect much, but you're dealing him off. I think they kept him in part. I mean, there's an idea. I know my friend, my co-host David has suggested maybe he wanted to stay, which is very possible.
Sure.
But I think it's also like, look, we don't want this last 2 months to be miserable for this team. We want it to have a chance to maybe not make the playoffs, but at least have a successful season. I mean, and Jeff Jones just wrote about this on his newsletter that just came out this morning. How bad that second half, that last 2 months of 2023 was, right? A lot of no names, a lot of nothing going on. And he really traces the decline in attendance back to that.
It makes sense.
Yeah. I think the Cardinals were like, look, we've got to do this. These moves make us better in the future. This is part of our plan. But this team has also been much better than we thought. And so I think that's why we didn't see a Stanek move, a Riley O'Brien move, even a catcher move, although I think the catcher situation is probably more of a we'll deal with that in the offseason type of thing.
Sure.
But I think they kept some of this talent that they might have been able to move just because they wanted to keep a baseline of talent on this roster. They didn't want it to just, you just didn't want to see a AAA team out there for the last 2 months.
Yeah, agreed, and that's a great point. I haven't had a chance to read Jeff's work yet today, but everything you said, Stanek wanting to stay, Stanek having the St. Louis ties, I had honestly considered that because I thought, that's one that you could give away pretty easy, and I don't necessarily think they just wanted the lottery ticket to trade a hometown guy away, and also that makes me, what kind of made me think that maybe that was a possibility is this the buying Ferguson. Because that was the one that surprised me. I was like, wait a second, because I kept thinking, because they announced it after 501.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, okay, is there a catch on this one? And I was like, no, they just want to get another lefty in there. And I go, well, for all the movement they made, you traded a guy that potentially wouldn't have helped you the rest of the year. I was a big Romero guy, but considering the health issue and everything right now, you may not have any there may not be any benefit to keep him,
Right.
in that situation. And one, he was probably a high commodity. So to turn around and to get Ferguson, I was like, well, they're buying some innings on this. I literally bought, some
Right.
innings and some outs in the bullpen, and didn't blow up the bullpen that we thought could potentially happen. So, yeah, I mean, I think everything you say makes a lot of sense. That hey, let's stay in this as long as we can. We think that we're going to compete a little bit, and we're further along than we were. And back to what I'm saying, I do kind of wonder, not necessarily like, when Heim said, hey, yes, we are rebuilding, we're doing these things, and everything's for the future. It's not that we don't want to beat you every night. He made that comment while we were there, and I would love to have a sit down in the off season, or at least hear it of, hey, where was competitive in August and September on that bingo card? Where was that as far as the development process is going? If did that check a box of, hey, uh, maybe the future is going to be sooner rather than later, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the case. And I think you also look at this team and you say, okay, you lost JoJo Romero, who has been, like you said, he's been out the last few weeks anyway. He could be out for another few. And when he was healthy, was not to the level that we've seen JoJo. And he's still very effective, whatever. But he was a little bit more inconsistent. And how much of a step down are you taking with Ferguson? His first outing has looked pretty good, right? So yeah, you're probably taking a bit of a step, but it's not a huge one. You lose Dustin May, who has had really great times and has also had really rough times. You're going to replace him with Hunter Dobbins and get to see more of Quinn Matthews. How much of that is a step back? It's probably a little bit on paper, but maybe not a lot. And then you lose, in the Lars Nootbaar trade, I'd kind of, it was what, 5-5 basically, and I was like, yeah, they're probably done, and then like as soon as I said that, they're pulling Newt off the field. And in Nootbaar, which again, all these guys you hated to lose them because they've been great Cardinals for various lengths of time. But with Newt, it's a guy that you didn't have most of the year, a guy that has always had great underlying numbers, but hasn't necessarily brought it to the, it's not ever fully developed on the field. And at some point that may open a spot for Joshua Baez.
Sure.
After the rookie eligibility deadline passes here in a couple of weeks. So, this team, I don't know, is significantly worse than it was before the deadline.
Agreed. And I think that it gives Dobbins some rope, who pitched well. And I'm quickly becoming a Dobbins fan. Gives Dobbins some rope. I think we'll see Matthews again. And those are things that we've talked about in the past 2 or 3 weeks of, hey, are these wins on a year where we see these guys up finally? Success or not, is it nice that we finally see? I mean, because, Matthew set the world on fire. Then last year it was like, is this ever going to happen? Was he going to be the T. Kent's aspect of it? Well, then, come around, and we'll get into that later, I'm sure. But yeah, you just kind of wonder of, hey, is this a situation where Well, I'll say this, not to ramble on, but a good friend of mine who's a Rangers fan messaged me. He goes, "So are the Cardinals just blowing it up or what?" I said, "Well, this is the cost of a rebuild." I said, "Look what they've done." Kind of mapped out what May did. I said, "Yeah, you've got to make that move, and you sign him to make the move." I said, "You have this and this and this," and I said, "The Nootbaar deal hurts just because he means so much to St. Louis, and he's a good guy, and he's an ambassador." I said, "But they have a guy with 31 home runs right now that they're going to have to find playing time for." I said, "That may not be this year, but it's coming." I go, so there are things that are happening that yes, it looks like you're just moving a lot of the high price veterans, but I do not high necessarily high price, but you know where I'm
Right.
going,
Right.
out of contract veterans. But the you do feel like now that yeah, the youthful energies may be palpable, and that we may be onto something. And it was nice to actually kind of say those things to somebody. I will say this, and I can be a little bit sappy about baseball. It says a lot to me about Nootbaar to record that after you've been traded, by the
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
and having
Yeah.
a hard time to get through it. I really, really appreciated that. Amber couldn't even watch it, but that
Yeah,
tells you anything.
that was very unique because we see players, with a message on the Instagram or whatever the case may be. Yeah, the day of or the day after or 2 days after when they've had a chance to really appreciate, hey, fans, great, which is cool and always good. But yeah, Newt did it before even, well, like the only Cards fan pointed out, he's still in his uniform. I mean, they had just pulled
Agreed.
him off the
That's
field,
I was
right? I
thinking the
mean,
same thing.
he was still processing this in his own mind, and I don't know if it was. I assume it was his idea. I'd hate to think it was um, Cardinal Nation's, their Cardinal media team saying, "Hey, why don't you record this video while you're in the midst of your worst moment of your life?" Well, probably
But
exaggerating.
even that though, even that doesn't that say a lot for him to A to do it and B to be asked.
Oh, absolutely. I
Because I
mean,
had literally thought about that too. I was like, even if this is maybe a PR stunt, which I genuinely don't think it was, I still think it's pretty interesting that they asked and he took it.
yeah, I mean, because he easily could not. I mean, he owes nothing to that organization at that
100%.
point, right? I
Yeah.
mean, nothing at all, and he could have done it on his own time. So, yeah, I think that it really meant something. I mean, I do think this was tough. I think it's good that he was going to Arizona, where Nolan Arenado's already out there, and they have that they already have a good connection. So he wasn't like going, completely cold turkey, if you will. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna be interested to see how that goes for him out there and how his career kind of develops going forward. And he's gonna be one of those guys. I think that 10 years from now, when he's out of baseball, he can be hanging around. I wouldn't be ton of surprised if he takes Brad Thompson's job, or I mean, on a Cardinal broadcast.
Sure.
He
Yeah.
could be that kind of guy, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if he wants to be, I think he's
It's a
still going
great
to have
point.
those connections with St. Louis, even though he's left. I think he's going to be one of those players that we see pretty often in retirement. That's just my guess.
That's a really good point. Something that I had thought about because he's really natural in front of it, knows how to talk to people, and that's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, I would be very interested to see what that would look like. I mean, not that we're trying to run Brad Thompson out or anything, although some people might be.
Which
Um,
by the way, I'm a
yeah.
huge fan of Thompson. I know some people aren't, and I know that it's kind of corny, but I think he's great.
I like Brad a lot. I think that Brad and Chip at times together are not the best. Because I think that they
I'm sorry.
I
Go
I think
ahead,
they
go.
feed on their each other's worst impulses to some degree, I
Sure.
guess, to put it that way. Because I know I saw Brad, at the beginning of the year, the first Peacock game when the Cardinals were at, and it's Brad Thompson and Jason Benintendi, and then I've forgotten who the Tigers representative was. I just
Hey,
can't
I
remember.
know it's not a notable guy. I know who you're talking
No,
about, though.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was, but in
Well, neither is Thompson outside of St. Louis, but
probably true.
yeah.
But Thompson, I mean, he did a great job there, and he was a little bit more toned down. I mean, he still had that humor that he's got, and that's always cool. I just think that, and some of it's the nature of some of the games that they've done, but I'm like, just remember where remember where you are, guys. I guess is to some degree. I don't know. But anyway, yeah. I mean, Brad's pretty good overall. Um, And I think he did the game with Stephon Carey, if I'm right, and that worked out pretty well too. But yeah, I could see Nootbaar taking that kind of spot, or just a rotating spot, kind of him. Because I don't know how long Mark Sweeney does this in St. Louis. I'm honestly, Mark Sweeney's an interesting
Yes.
selection for that, right? I mean, he didn't have much of a career in St. Louis, or at least not I'm remembering. I mean, he's done a fine job. It's just I was very interested that that's the kind of guy that they went with.
Losing weight is one thing, but looking and feeling your best this summer, that's the real goal. That's why Weight Loss by Hims now offers the FDA-approved Wegovy pill and Wegovy pen. Wegovy is designed to help you lose weight and keep it off so you can show up this summer feeling like yourself. With Wegovy at Hims, lose up to 20% of your body weight when combined with diet and exercise. It helps you regulate your appetite, eat less, and keep weight off. Plus, Wegovy is the first ever GLP-1 pill for weight loss, so there are no needles needed. Ready to reach your goals? Visit hims.com/FFSN to get a personalized, affordable plan that gets you. That's HIMS.com/FFSN, hims.com/FFSN. Weight Loss by Hims is not available in all 50 states. Wegovy is the registered trademark of Novo Nordisk AS. To get started and learn more, including important safety information, Wegovy clinical study information and restrictions, visit hims.com. That's HIMS.com/FFSN, hims.com/FFSN.
Here's your report.
Oh, thanks, Jane. I wish I could hire someone just like you.
Try LinkedIn Hiring Pro. It's more than a job board. It's like the recruiter you always wished you had. Hiring Pro uses real-time insights to match your role to LinkedIn's unique network of professionals and delivers a short list of best fit candidates. You'll spend less time sorting applicants and more time talking to the right people.
Let's do it. You're irreplaceable, Jane, but another you would be great.
Hire right the first time. Post your job for free on LinkedIn today at linkedin.com/quality.
Yeah, it was funny of all the names that are out there, and it was better than some of the ones that did have St. Louis ties. I felt like, but he's pretty good. But it does. I'll never look at Sweeney of not being a Royal. You know what I mean? One of those things. So it's kind of weird.
And I think there were two Sweeneys at a time, so maybe I get them confused. He was Padre too, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, it's interesting, but it works. It's gone fine. So, anyway, I'm pretty sure we started with Nootbaar, so we went way down a rabbit hole. I'm not even 100% sure what we were going with Nootbaar, but I think that, I mean, you look at you got Baez knocking on the door. You've got, the Cardinals just brought in 2 outfielders. They've got a few others on the. I mean, and then just. It's amazing to watch the minor league talent right now and just know how much of that's probably going to be in play as early as next year for the major league team, right? I mean, we're seeing it now with Quinn Matthews getting up here, Dunner Dobbins. I mean, I need to sit down and maybe we can do this in the off season somewhat, but and start thinking about what this rotation looks like for next year. Because there's a lot of guys and nobody's coming off, but there's somebody that needs some spots to be filled, right? I mean, there needs some spots to be created, because you got to feel like Matthews is going to be in the rotation all year long, and Dobbins is going to be in the rotation all year long, and Fitz comes back, and Liam Doyle's going to be I imagine at AAA, because it seems like he's kind of figuring things out in AA for right now. I figure he'll be at AAA before the end of the year, so he's knocking on the door. Singe is already there, although he still had some work to do.
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. It's going to be very interesting to see how these spots start coming open in the rotation first, and then in the lineup as some of these big bats start working their way up.
Sure, there's that situation, and I was just before I forget. Now, has Roby's light dimmed with injury, or is he someone that will be in factor at some point next year?
I think he won't be back until next year, so I would think at best he's a second half consideration. But I mean, he's got to stay healthy and he's got to show, if he comes back healthy at the beginning of the year, which I'm not sure exactly if that's what the timeline is on him, But even if he's ready to go by April or so, he'd have to probably pitch till the All-Star break at to start getting into consideration, I would think, just because he hasn't had that track record of staying healthy.
Yeah, that's and I wonder. I think that some of these guys just um, get uh, overtaken in the
Yeah.
prospect list, and we
Yeah.
forget about him a little bit. And
Yeah.
honestly, if you'd have said, "Oh, they'd released him 2 months ago," I would have been like, "Okay, yeah, okay. I knew that wasn't the case." But I'm just saying,
Right.
you know what I mean? One of those situations. But yeah, I just kind of wondered. But that name does make it interesting if he comes back and reaches potential. It could be pretty exciting. That's the one thing that I'm super curious to see is the roster for next year, and in the outlook, like after the season and some of the end of the season meetings and the GM meetings. I hope that it's not all tainted with work stoppage stuff, which I'm afraid will be the case. But it's going to be really, really cool to see how they line up and who fits into that, who fits into what they think will be the next winning formula.
Yeah. Yeah, I was speaking of Rod, I just wanted to pull this up. MLB Pipeline, which is a good shorthand thing. Pipeline has Roby still at 12 in the system, which is good. It's just when he was traded for, he was probably like number 2 in the system. It just shows you how much this team has changed over the last little bit. It was very interesting in that to me, the main, I guess, they got 2 guys back from Arizona in the Nootbaar trade, and one of them was Daniel Egan. The other one was Santos. I forgot the guy. Oh, Sandro Santana. He's right there, in front of me. But anyway, Egan was the 5th ranked prospect in the Diamondbacks organization. They slot him in as 17 here, and I think that just shows, the Cardinals are usually like, you got a bump when you came to the Cardinal organization, but now there's so many good and quality players that another team's top 5 is not even in the top 15 in St. Louis.
Yeah, that says a lot of because considering where it was a couple years ago, where everything seemed dead last, and and prospect outlook and talent outlook, and yeah, the change from August 7th of 5 to August 7th of 26 is pretty. Yes, Mo is going to get a little bit of credit for it. I agree with that. I think Heim deserves a lot of credit for it being in the organization, but it has been a pretty substantial facelift, and it's in one, it's exciting, and when you hear other ballparks now, could be the fact Walker won the home run derby. I get it. You hear Weatherholt's been up all year. Is going to be one of the top 2 at worst rookie of the year finalists. You still have Wynn, who's exciting. All those names, and Burleson and Herrera essentially. Other clubs and other fans of organizations now, you could tell that they know that there's some energy coming, and the ideology of that St. Louis has been the sleeping giant for years. Mm-hmm. You do wonder if it's more of a, hey, the draft and development's going to work, and they don't necessarily have to go out and sign anybody big. Now, I do truly look forward to the time where they're going to be adding in the offseason substantially. I'm not saying I think that's going to happen pretty quickly, but I'm just the excitement level for me is how they target those guys is going to be interesting.
Well, and I think it's going to be interesting because, again, they're prospects. You don't they all don't hit for sure. But if even a good handful of these prospects hit, there's not going to be a whole lot of reason to go out and buy. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have young, controllable, very good players at almost every position. Obviously things change, injuries, development doesn't happen, whatever. But you could see a situation there. Right now, the Cardinals seem to have a hole at third base and center field. And I'm not sure if I can't remember. I don't know if Ragsdale or Frias. I think one of them maybe can play center. We'll see. And that playing center now at the lower levels versus playing center in the majors is a totally different thing too. So, but you wonder if that's where they wind up either trading for or signing as a guy at one of those positions. I mean, I feel like we'll see Nolan Gorman again. He's hitting some home runs now in Memphis. I still don't like the overall look of that whole thing, but he has been on a bit of a tear, which is, a Nolan Gorman thing to do. I assume we'll see him again before the end of the year, but I also feel like, at worst, you're probably looking until he gets arbitration. I'm not sure that they would tender him this year. I would expect that this is kind of the it, but we'll see. They're gonna have to find somebody at that position.
Yeah, that's those are the glaring holes, and I think that just the idea that we see that, and it's obvious that we're only scratching the surface on what we actually see, is probably a positive as far as the development process goes. That they've identified things that will have to improve, and we know that we've seen all those, and it's all about production. But the fact that at those positions it seems to be extremely limited, where others could be vast, like the outfield and maybe the pitching depth, and you may have 2 to 3 too many catchers here in the next 3 to 5 months, considering how the contractual stuff plays out. So yeah, I do think that all signs to me seem to be pointing up, and it's icing on the cake to see that, hey, you're going out and winning some series, and you're competing in some series, and I don't think that it's necessarily. I think the ballpark probably played a pretty big role in this, but there's something about it when you hear Burleson's name of being a highly contested bat. He goes out and hits 3 home runs. That's baseball has a way of policing itself sometimes. And I thought that it was a pretty big message that, hey, you go out, win that, lose the lead, everything, you've lost 2 guys out of your clubhouse, you lost the lead. You could have folded it because the expectations are, hey, we're about development, not necessarily the long or the outlook of 2026, but to come back and fight and have home runs by guys that, hey, last week we're kind of talking about how you can't run Church and Victor out there again, and it's one of those things. Well, now Church has started to hit, and those are just things like that just seem to be coming together at the right time. And we may in 3 weeks say, well, they didn't get as hot as we thought they were, but I just have a feeling they're going to play pretty well the rest of the year. And I said that last week, and I think that some of these dates in the season is just one less weight pulling on them to not be as competitive as they are. Now you're past the deadline, so now it's hey, prove it and let's go out and play. And I think they'll show that they can do it.
I mean, it's very possible. I've heard other people that talk about the weight that was probably lifted off of these players when you get through, because they're young guys. And I don't remember where it was, but to talk about who it was that was talking about how these are young guys, not only, in baseball sense, but in life sense, right? I mean, some of them are dealing with, getting married or there's other things that are going on, and they're trying to juggle that while they've got this cloud of the first time they might actually be on a trade block, right? Because they've been too young or too valuable or whatever. And now all of a sudden they're getting to that spot where, that young and talented is going to maybe work against them because they could get traded. And so, I mean, you saw that, right? You heard the story about Marmol messing with Burleson, because Burleson apparently was nervous all day long that he was going to get dealt. And so a couple minutes after the deadline, Ollie calls him into the office and just stares at him for a little bit and then finally says, okay, you're good. Like you're not going anywhere. And I mean, and then he goes out and hits their own runs. And I mean, that's obviously, you don't want to draw that too straight of a connection. But I think you're right. I think there's some, breathing that comes along with the fact that, hey, I'm still here. They still want me. I don't have to worry about my life being upended, at least for another few months. I can just play baseball. And I think that may be a little bit of what we saw in there. Now, Cardinals have the Rockies this weekend, and, by the end of the weekend, we could be saying, okay, that didn't work. But because if you lose a series to the Rockies, that's your own problem.
That's right. If that was the death knell last year, if you remember.
Well,
when they went out and just played terribly.
Well, and then was it because last year was it last year that the Rockies went for the record of most losses, and the Cardinals were like
Yeah.
the only team that
Yes.
they beat in a
Yeah.
series. Yeah, um, so you never know, but I feel like you go to Bush and you got we'll see how that all works out, um, but I think there's a nice you hate to see the guys that go out that win out. I'm sure that especially Newt and I know Dustin May had been a big influence on the rotation, and I'm sure, and I know JoJo's had his fans as well, um, and so you hate not having those guys in the clubhouse anymore, but you're also like it's not me, and so let's play um, so yeah, I'm very interested to see how they react to this. I mean, winning a series in New York is a good thing, especially a New York team that has had its struggles as well. It's when doesn't have Aaron Judge and the offense is showing it. But it's also a New York team that's went out and added pieces and is trying to win the division, definitely in the wild card hunt. Um, it's a good team, and you go take 2 or 3 from there, and I think you got to feel pretty good about it.
Yeah. It's and just keep rolling on and see what we can. Have a good pitching fight. I mean, the rotation has been really good, and when I saw one of I think may have been in Game 3 the other day, and they had shown kind of the stats of what they've done, in the past couple of weeks. I go, man, it has been really good. Keep them in a lot of games, and it just shows that they just need to hit a little bit more, which we've known.
Yeah.
So it's it's now, like I said, it's an exciting time. So we'll see what kind of further development we have, and some kind of some long term outlook. Something I wanted to bring up to you. We talked last year about trying to find the emails, the promotional emails for tickets that they've had recently.
Mm-hmm.
And if you remember, you and I couldn't find them last year,
Right?
and we thought they've done away with those. Where you could get in. They have completely brought those back. I get the Monday morning emails with really, really good ticket prices. I think that's probably a part of this. Yes, the discounted tickets means they want more people in there, but I also think that they're trying to sell the energy a little bit, because a lot of the pictures of your win weather holds Walker, and I've been pretty excited about it. I mean, tried to talk myself into going to one more series this year before it's all said and done. I mean, with school that it's difficult, but for me, it's always going to be difficult for them to lose my fandom. Yes, I get disappointed, and yes, I can come on here and complain, but I still love to go, and I love the product, and to feel like that's being backed up by what's going on right now on the field and in the front offices is exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I know we have 172 different Cardinal podcasts out there, but I also feel like you're not doing a Cardinal podcast if you're a guy that's going to just, drop off when it goes rough. I think that's kind of an indication you're in for the long haul. Yeah, and I mean, I think you're right that, I mean, I've seen that they've got, they have the tarps off ticket text, and I think some of those have even been like, free tickets and stuff like that. Just trying to, again, like you said, kind of get some of that energy, get some of that idea back at the ballpark, get people used to going back to the ballpark. It's very easy once you stop that habit to not. Now, granted, there's financial considerations as well with some of that, and I mean, and that was the thing. The Cardinals also addressed that a little bit with the unlimited tickets or unlimited food ticket area. I would be interested to see what their ticket prices are for next year, although I don't imagine you dare raise for ticket prices in the face of a CBA argument and lockout. That's probably not a wise idea. But I think they've made it good, and that's part of the whole change in philosophy. We've talked a lot about the change in philosophy on the baseball side of things, with the shift to Heim Bloom and all that kind of stuff. But I think there's been a shift on the business side of things too, and the idea of we can't just take that 40,000 people are going to show up for granted anymore. We've got to do things like ticket sales, like promotions, like there's a lot more that they're doing to try to engage with their fan base. I mean, and that's that's big. And it hasn't necessarily paid off as much in the seats as you'd like, because I think attendance is running around where it was last year. But I think it will at some point in time. And, the more you can make that a fun environment and a fun time, and hopefully a less expensive time to go out to the ballpark, then I think you're probably going to have a good thing. Now, the Cardinals have a couple of minor things. And you referenced it once before. The Cardinals had to make a 40-man move to get Caleb Ferguson on the roster. And it was interesting that they went to the idea of releasing Tink Hintz, or waiving Tink Hintz, who did clear waivers and is back at in the system. But it's Tink Hintz. I mean, a name that we have talked about since he was drafted in 2020, a guy that has flashed all this potential, but can't stay healthy and hasn't ever really developed it. Were you surprised when you saw, that was the move that they made?
Yeah, a little bit, especially considering that we had talked about it to where it was not that we knew anything, but it's a situation where I kind of thought, well, if this is going to be one of those years to where, like, I fully expected the bullpen to kind of be blown up, honestly, on Monday, and where it could be a situation this is one of those to where, if he's healthy, finally calling him up just to see what you get before making the DFA decision. So to see that happen within a couple of days of us talking, if not a day of us talking, was I was like, wow, it's kind of a head scratcher. And everyone was like, well, time's just kind of up. This is what we are. And I'm sure there's some underlying story on that as well, because that's one that he kind of dimmed pretty quick, and I know it's probably injuries, but the fact that not only did they release him and nobody took him as a flyer probably says a lot. But yeah, I was surprised that was the move, honestly.
Losing weight is one thing, but looking and feeling your best this summer, that's the real goal. That's why Weight Loss by Hims now offers the FDA-approved Wegovy pill and Wegovy pen. Wegovy is designed to help you lose weight and keep it off, so you can show up this summer feeling like yourself. With Wegovy at Hims, lose up to 20% of your body weight when combined with diet and exercise. It helps you regulate your appetite, eat less, and keep weight off. Plus, Wegovy is the first ever GLP-1 pill for weight loss, so there are no needles needed. Ready to reach your goals? Visit hims.com/FFSN to get a personalized, affordable plan that gets you. That's HIMS.com/FFSN, hims.com/FFSN. Weight Loss by Hims is not available in all 50 states. Wegovy is the registered trademark of Novo Nordisk AS. To get started and learn more, including important safety information, Wegovy clinical study information and restrictions, visit hims.com. That's HIMS.com/FFSN, hims.com/FFSN.
Here's your report.
Oh, thanks, Jane. I wish I could hire someone just like you.
Try LinkedIn Hiring Pro. It's more than a job board. It's like the recruiter you always wished you had. Hiring Pro uses real-time insights to match your role to LinkedIn's unique network of professionals and delivers a short list of best fit candidates. You'll spend less time sorting applicants and more time talking to the right people.
Let's do it. You're irreplaceable, Jane, but another you would be great.
Hire right the first time. Post your job for free on LinkedIn today at linkedin.com/quality.
I know I've been listening. I stay regularly behind but I have been listening to Kyle and Brian, and Kyle kind of hinted at this a couple weeks ago that this was a possibility. That it was getting to that point, and you wonder. I mean, you've got Fitz and Roby on your 40-man that you can't put on the 60-day DIL. You wonder if those guys had been healthy, does that, or is that change your philosophy a little bit? If you'd had a spot, do they go this way? I think this is kind of a last resort type of thing, but I also think I think the stars dimmed enough that it's not likely to happen. And I mean, again, we are now 6 years out from the draft, and I'm not saying that means that he should have been in the major leagues, but he probably should have been a little bit more advanced than he was. And I mean, you're getting to the point where what they added him. He's going to be. You're starting to lose the option years, and and things of that nature. So yeah, it made sense. And you're right. I think the biggest thing is that it's a talent, a guy that, has been high on the prospect lists since the drafting, and he gets through with nobody even wanting to take him. It was even, a team that has, no chances. I think that tells a lot. And we'll see. Who knows? Maybe one of these, he'll figure something out, stay healthy, something will click, and we'll still see him. But I think, we used to say a lot about that 2020 draft, and we should. I mean, it was 5 rounds, and they're going to get Jordan Walker, Mason Wynn, and Alec Burleson out of it. But it was like, well, Tink Henson's there too. That's going to be impressive, and that's just not going to come out. And that's kind of the thing. We've talked about prospects. As exciting as they are, there is that drawback. They don't always pan out the way we want. And I think we've seen a lot of people point to Baltimore over the last little bit, right? I mean, after they trade Rutschman, that was a team that was going to be set up for years, and yet it's never clicked.
Yeah, yeah. That's always the scary part of this, of the rebuild aspect of, if you have too many misses, you're going to be doing this for a long time, But the reality is that it happens, and it's a tough one, because that's just all all that comes with him. I was really hoping to see it, one of those things, and just slightly disappointing.
Yeah. I will say also, I think there's a difference in St. Louis. One, I mean, how many prospects they have coming up, which Baltimore had a lot and had a lot of good ones. But I also think it goes back to what you're saying. When the time is right, the Cardinals are going to add. Baltimore didn't do that, right? They didn't take advantage of their situation, and it blew up on them. So I think the Cardinals will be a little bit different, but it's worth highlighting. Cardinals also yesterday claimed Everson Pereira. I don't know. From the White Sox. It was an interesting one to me. Just one, it's like, again, what are we claiming here for? What's the plan here? But it looks like a guy with some talent that, it probably won't pan out, but it's got enough possibilities that they're worth a shot.
Yeah, I agree. That's it's exciting to see some of those guys, and you do. I'm always a change of scenery type uh, to give someone a shot. I've always felt like I always worry more about the change of scenery outside of St. Louis. It's kind of nice to see somebody with that profile to come back. And yeah, I know there's a lot of swing and miss, but man, you never know. I mean, remember, there's a lot of people that wanted to give up on Walker last year, and his knock was swing and miss. So I mean, you never know.
Last year, March.
That's a very good point. That is a very good point. I mean, I say this too, and I try not to. I know, one, none of us want to have egg on our face, and this was. I truly believe the development's helped, but that's why I think that Walker deserved the home run derby. I mean, because he's been through it, and for a young guy like that, it's pretty tough.
That being said, and then again, I'm not blaming it on the home run derby, because the offense has been sporadic in the last 2 weeks anyway. But Walker has not hit one yet this month. Since then, has not hit a home run. And I mean, the offense. I'm not. Like I said, he's had some doubles. He's had. I know I can think of at least one that he hit to the wall that got caught. That kind of stuff. I'm not concerned about it. It does feel like he's kind of hit a trough, and whether that's a little bit of tired, a little bit of who knows what, or a little bit of people are focusing on him a little bit differently now that they, kind of made a name for himself. I don't know, but it's pretty notable. Now, that being said, I think Kyle Schwarber, last I looked, Kyle Schwarber had like one since then. So it's not if it's a home run derby thing, it's not contained to just him.
Yeah. It seemed like, was his power down a little bit right before the derby too?
I mean, the power has been, he had that stretch in the first 2 months that was just like every other day was a home run. And after that, it has slowed. And yeah, I think he hit one. I think the last thing they hit one the 9th, which would have been right before, like 3 or 4 days before the derby, or 3 or 4 days before the break. But I don't know that he hit, but maybe one or two. I'd have to look at the splits and see. It probably was down some.
Yeah, so that's, and I wondered about that. It seems like the slug was down a little bit right beforehand, so it's not that glaring. But yeah, definitely something to watch. But also I always say this time of year is one of those. It's just um, you just want to know how much legs they have left anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I will say, looking at monthly, if you're just looking at home runs, 9 home runs March, April, 6 in May, 3 in June, 4 in July, and then none in August. So, again, that April May burst was big. I mean, he hit more in those 2 months than he had hit in any one season before.
Yeah,
But you're right. And he's now looking at this. If I look at it right, he's 6 for 15 in August in the 3 games in New York. In the 2 games he
yeah,
didn't play in New York. So 6 for 15. Um, there's no extra base hits in that span, but still hitting the ball. So which is better, right? I mean, if Jordan Walker was reverting or something like that, we'd see a lot more strikeouts, a lot of not nothing. But you know, he's still doing what he's doing. It just hasn't quite. It'll probably click at some point in time. Although going into Bush for a few games doesn't help that matters any at all.
yeah.
But yeah, kind of interested to see now about Perea has to go on the 26 man. I assume that means they'll probably just send Prieto back down, even though he just came up. But I don't. I mean, the only thing is Prieto's an infielder, or Pearson's an outfielder, or Prea's an outfielder. I mean, is that what you think? Is that the move they make? I guess when he's ready today.
Well, go right ahead. Say that again.
Prieto. Do you think Prieto's the one that they clear out, or is there another way that they get this guy on the roster?
I mean, I was surprised that Prieto came back up, honestly. So played a game at second base, relieved win a little bit. So makes sense. I mean, that personally, that's what I would like to see happen. But would you be shocked if it was Velasquez?
I've thought that.
Because I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yes, they're in the search for power and all those things. He doesn't play a lot. This dude's an outfielder, so I don't know. I thought about that.
Yeah, Velasquez hasn't done a lot. I mean, it didn't feel like, at least. He's got 4 homers in his time in St. Louis this year. He doesn't. You're right. Didn't play much. 74 at bats. I don't know that he's been bad enough that you go out and get another player to replace him.
Sure.
But
which may not have been the motivation, but I understand where you're coming from.
No, but I also, I mean, it also feels like this guy's going to kind of be in the same kind of spot, right? So I don't know. It seemed a little bit weird. It's, again, if it's a guy you commit in the minor leagues, it makes sense. But we'll see how he goes up there in St. Louis. I feel like, though, it's probably Prieto going down, and then that just frees up Fermin to stay in the infield. But I don't know. And I because I had thought, and I think I'd seen some other people that suggested that because of his hot streak, Gorman might get the call up, and they might flip him and Prieto, if nothing else.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah.
But I mean, and they might. I mean, obviously, I think Gorman's got to get one more chance.
Sure.
I also think it's his last one. And I guess they know more about where he's at in development and doing things and hitting metrics and all that kind of stuff than we obviously do. But if they do that, or if they want that option, then I don't know. I mean, Brian Torres could go down, but I think they seem to have liked him. And the thing is, anybody that gets sent down, especially somebody, I mean, Prieto's he's obviously been playing in Memphis, and he would probably take his spot back. But anybody like Torres, who might be the only other person that could go down, honestly, without looking at it. They're gonna, Church could, I guess, because Church has options. Although, like I said, he's been anyway. Anybody that does that is going to have trouble finding playing time at Memphis, I think, because the Memphis team is, there's a lot of prospects. We've talked about this. There's this crush, and so you can't send somebody down expecting them to get better at Memphis, I guess, because they just may not get a chance to.
Sure, that's a good point. All that. The Gorman deal does make sense, and I feel like he's on enough of a heater that we're going to see him sooner rather than later as well. That makes sense. I mean, they haven't been as predictable on the roster moves. There have been some low hanging fruit. I mean, that just goes with the territory. But I have noticed that they do some kind of uncommon things, and somewhat have been some head scratching things, honestly.
Yeah, it has been a little harder to predict. They are a little bit more about. And part of that's just because they're looking at not necessarily looking at this year.
What I do appreciate though is I feel like, and this is everything we say here almost sounds like it's an attack on former administration, but I feel like Bloom would map this out if was asked directly. You know what I mean? And that's been what's kind of refreshing about this year.
Yeah. And I tell you what, it was last week. We, as the MLB Fan Council, had one of their monthly Zoom calls, and we had it with Derek Fahey, the guy who used to run the Twins. And because we were just asking questions about, what the trade deadline looks like, who's talking to who, what's that, all that kind of stuff. And he said one of the things he did was if, as soon as the deadline was over, if they were at home, he went down to the clubhouse. If they were on the road, he went and flew to wherever they were supposed to go, wherever they were. So he could talk to the team about what happened, who, where they are, all that kind of stuff. I thought about that because you noticed that Tuesday night, Chaim Bloom was in New York on the broadcast.
Yes.
And I think that was the same kind of thing, to not only talk to the players about, hey, this, I know this is our plan. This is why we did this. This is, we know all this, but also to be able to be on the broadcast, tell fan base about what they were doing as well, and kind of putting a public face on it. So, not that I think John Mozeliak would have definitely been on the broadcast, as soon as he could have been. I just don't know that. I don't know that he flies to, New York. A lot of times the deadline's probably been where they've been in town, and it's not been an issue. But it is a lot more fun when you're, bringing people in too, I guess. But which is what he usually did. But yeah, John Mo was very, very busy out in Anaheim. I don't know if that's they figured out that they needed to, or he's like, I'm not necessarily sure I'm getting this job, so I'm going to do whatever I want to do, and if I don't get it, whatever. But they made more trades this time, more trades that made sense this time than they probably have in the last 4 years. Alan? I seem to have lost Alan. But anyway, yeah, great endings here. We're professionals. Don't try this at home. So anyway, we will. The Cardinals have the Rockies. It's a. I don't want to say it's a big series, but because it's the Rockies, and take all what you will. But I think it's going to be an interesting one. That if the Cardinals play well in this series, then they're still hanging around that wild card spot, and the schedule's not. We've talked about the schedule in the past. It's not. It's not great. The Phillies come in after that. They go to the Cubs, but then you've got a 5-game sit with the Reds. Then you go to Philadelphia. But then you've got the Orioles and the Pirates, and it's kind of a mixed bag. But they can hang around and make things interesting. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah. Do you have me back, Daniel?
Oh, I have. There
okay.
it is. There
well, I listen. there's no telling what's going on with this computer as we get closer to school. I'm just telling you. I was like, I can hear you. You just can't hear me.
Yep. Well, did you have anything that when I rambled on?
Well, you were 100% correct on Mo. It was interesting to see you only have that job once, and I was kind of half thinking that they were going to sell high on Neto a little bit,
Yep.
but did not. But no, you're absolutely correct. I mean, it's one of those. One, they need to play better and win games at home. So that would be nice to see if you could go in and win the series this weekend against Colorado, and that like it's the big league schedule and it's unforgiving, and you're going to play guys that are holding on to a playoff spot and made moves to improve, and all those things. So it'll be tough the rest of the way, but yes, exciting nonetheless.
Yeah, and it's just, you're right. I mean, the Cardinals won the series against the Yankees. That's the first series they'd won since the All-Star break. So just winning a series is kind of nice. And if they can keep on that trajectory, and it would be nice to get back over 500, just as a thing to check off. And not that
sure, 100%. No, I completely could not agree more on that.
All right. Well, again, it'll be a calmer week probably. We'll see how this homestand goes. And then Alan and I'll be back with you next week to talk about it. So until then, for Alan, I'm Daniel. Good night.
Good night.
Freese has hit 4 home runs this postseason. He's swinging for number 5 right there, and it's a full count.
The Rangers a strike away from winning it in both the 9th and 10th innings. 2 strikes on Freese, 2 strikes on Berkman.
Freese hits it in the air to center. We will see you